Hey, that sunlight this morning. Oh, it's so bright. Good morning, Curtis. Happy Monday. We've got the sun coming right through the basement window. I hope you guys can see everything well enough. I'm a little bit in shadow, but that's all right. Hope you guys had a good weekend. It's going to start warming up. That's very exciting. Glad to be outdoors. That snow was insane. Um, Michigan, right? So, before we get into anything else, I want to give you guys the chance to get some supplies to make sure that you're ready for what we're doing in today's assignment. So, you are going to need paper and pencil. You're going to need a tissue or paper towel, something that you can use for blending. You can use your finger, but I recommend getting one of these. You're also going to need a bowl or a large cup, something that's a little bit bigger than the size of your fist. So small cups, not so much. I'm going to be using the lid from a candle. So it's like pretty decent size compared to your piece of paper. You don't want it to fill your entire paper. You want it to be roughly around that size. There we go. Okay. Good morning, Dell. So if you need a moment to go get it, if you're watching this live, yay, you're going to have some time to run and get these things while I chat a little bit. If you are watching this on video on YouTube later, you can pause if you need to go and get your stuff. I want to give you the chance to make sure you have everything ready before we start actually doing the drawing. Okay? So, couple things. Your home study packet, which was assigned before spring break, is due by Friday. I have gotten a ton of emails. I know I have a bunch that I need to answer from over the weekend from students saying that they have not had enough time or they only just joined Classroom recently. I sent out invites to even your student emails before spring break happened. So you should have gotten the codes for this a lot sooner. If you didn't check your mail or maybe you missed it in some way, that's why I'm giving you until this Friday to turn it in. So please make sure you are finishing up that home study packet and sending me pictures of it. All right? That's number one. The assignment this week is also going to be due on Friday. Please, please, please make sure if this ends up taking more than one video that you end up watching not only the whole of this video, but the whole of the second video. Last week's, I could tell some people only played through the first video and turned in an incomplete assignment, essentially. You want to make sure you get all the directions, and please make sure you are actually following along with the videos when I'm asking you to. So the first part of this assignment is a follow along. You are going to be drawing essentially the same thing that I am, but then we're going to get into a part where you get to be a little more creative. So it's a little bit half and half. There's going to be some you're following with me and some that you're going to be doing on your own. Eventually, you will need something to color with. I don't think you're going to need that today. We're going to be mostly working on just getting the first part of this drawing done together. All right? So this assignment due on Friday, home study packet due on Friday. Get this done if you haven't finished it yet. Remember, if you need any help, send me an email, or even the fastest way I think to get answers to most things would be to join me on the stream. And then you have the chance to be able to actually ask me in real time. So if there's something on an assignment that you are struggling with, even on the packet, if you are able to come to the stream, you can ask me your questions and I can even do a demonstration right there for you. So if you can come on live, please try to. I understand that this is a great opportunity for everybody to sleep in until noon, but I really encourage you to try and get here in the morning if you can, if you need that help. Okay? Hey, in the chat. Laura, if you didn't finish the packet, if it's not finished, you still have until Friday to get it done. So if you need help with it, just make sure to let me know what you're struggling with, but try to get it done and turned in by Friday. I'm being really easy with things turning in late. Okay? So hopefully you had enough time to get your supplies out, your pencil, your paper, something to do blending with like a paper towel, and something round like a bowl, a big cup, or anything circular. Okay? what we're going to be doing was actually inspired by this artist I found online, and I'm not sure how well it'll show up, but we're going to try anyway. Let's see. Here we go. This artist was doing some really cool work where they were drawing an eye, and then in putting in where you normally would have your iris, putting in different planets. So that was the Earth. There's one that's got Mars. Venus surface. A very cool Jupiter. So the idea of doing an eye and then putting something different in the center I thought was really cool. So we're going to make a little bit of an attempt at that. So we're going to start off with the realistic drawing of an eye first. Alrighty? So let's get camera set up for y'all. Yeah. I don't know if we'll get a visitor today like we did on Friday. My puppy broke in and showed up. Crashed the stream right at the end. Yeah, Sharon, I was really inspired by that artwork when I found it. So I was like, I wanted to try it. I thought, because I found it even before schools closed down, I thought it might be cool to try and do that with one of my classes at some point. So this is actually the first time that I've been doing this assignment with you guys. So it's going to be kind of exciting to do it all together online like this. And then maybe it'll be something that I can start bringing into my classes in future years. Okay, so got our paper, got our circle. This is going to be the part of the eye that we're going to have a little bit of fun with later on. We're going to start off with that. You don't want to put it directly in the center. We want to bring it down just a little bit because we want to leave room for the eyebrow on the top of the eye. So probably about, I'm going to say like 2 fingers at the bottom, roughly. Should give you just enough room. Trace all the way around. There we go. So the center part we're going to leave be for now. This is going to be the part where you're going to be able to get creative with. So making the actual eye around it, we're going to be cutting off just a tiny bit of the top. You're going to be making a roughly rainbow shape. And I think what's going to help, put your pencil, there's split in half, right? We're going to bring that down just a little bit. So it's not exactly in our center. And we're going to go, let's say, 2 or 3 fingers away from the circle. So you can just barely see my pencil peeking out on the side of my finger. I'm going to make a little mark there. Spin that around. And I'm going to slide it across the other way to do roughly the same thing. About 3 fingers to the point of my pencil. Make a little mark. Okay? So we're going to go from one point to the other, going just underneath where our circle is. So you can kind of start off lightly. Leave a little gap. Now if you have a smaller circle, you're probably going to want to use fewer fingers. 3 fingers here is about, it's like half of my circle. So if you have something smaller that you're using, kind of check what your halfway point is. Or if you have something bigger as well, you might need a little more space. Now to do the top one, same kind of thing, only this time you're going to cut into your circle just a little bit. So give like a little bit of space from the top, and you're going to aim for that. So as you go up and over, you're going to hit that mark. So the top of our circle is going to end up going away. Let me get my chunky eraser. There we go. So that is our kind of rough beginning. We've got the iris of our eye, which is the color part of the eye, and then the whites of the eye around it. Now we're going to try and make this look even more realistic. So at this point of our eye, we're going to create a little rounded space here. And actually get rid of this point a bit. So this shows the actual eyeball. And this part we're going to round just a small amount. You're just going to kind of round out that corner. So now this part from the top, we're going to continue that coming out and make a little oval shape on the side here. This is that part on the inside of the eye. Let me even show you kind of what we're working at. We're working at this part right here, this little inner space on your eye. Just so you have that reference. Mine's a little bit too big. There we go. Getting all the basic shapes first. Okay? So next, we're going to go pretty much straight up from where this little curve meets our eye. Go up a little ways. And you're going to make another big curve that's going to go all the way around over the top of the eye. Almost like a rainbow. All the way over. I think I brought mine up a little bit too high. There we go. Not too far. So this is the part of the eye where when you have your eyes open, your eyelids kind of tuck back underneath your eyebrow. I know that sounds very weird, but if you think about it, when you close your eye, your eyelid is flat across your eye. When you open it, it kind of folds up underneath and creates this little crease that happens. From that crease on our left side, we're going to do a little kind of backwards S shape happening. A little S shape. Lightly. This is where our eyebrow is going to start. I'm doing that super light. I hope you guys can still see it. Because we don't want too strong of a line because that's where all of the eyebrow hair is going to end up. Okay? Water break. There we go. So before we get into too much of the tiny details, we're going to do a little bit of shading. So this whole upper area where the eyebrow is going to be a little bit darker. So we're going to start off up there. You can see I'm holding my pencil pretty far down, and I'm not holding it quite like a pencil. I'm kind of holding it a bit flatter so that the pencil itself is a bit flatter to the paper. This just helps for going a little bit quicker. And I'm going to shade in this whole upper area. Gets a little thinner near the end. A little more as we go. Let's get a fresh side of my paper towel. You can see I've been using this paper towel a couple of different times. already. But it's still got good sides, so we're going to keep on using it. No need to throw it away. So, blend that in a little bit. Okay? Next, this area from this line that we've created is going to be darker and then start getting a little bit lighter as we get toward the actual eyebrow part. So this line you can go ahead and make a little bit darker, and then you're going to start doing some darker shading right along the edge of it. Looks like I got something underneath my paper. Little eraser marks from previous arting. So again, still holding my pencil near the bottom so it's easier to move quicker. And then as you start heading higher, you want to start pressing a lot lighter. Very, very light. Like you're barely even holding the pencil. Paper towel again, or your finger, depending on what you have. And I'm just even going to rub into this line that I had made to help blend that out too. Good morning, David. You made it for class. Welcome. Now, just like we've been doing when we've been talking about doing color, when you're using just regular pencil, graphite, you're kind of doing a similar thing. You're going to be going back and forth. You're going to be adding or taking away, and in this case, we're going to be doing a little more adding, because we want this to have a dramatic feel to it. So I want this line to be pretty dark. I want the shading to be very gradual. So that's why I went through and did it a little bit lighter first. I'm going in a little bit darker now. And the reason you do this in layers, if you press down really hard the first time, you could end up with scribble lines that will not fade away. So it's usually better to go in and add more and more and more rather than try to go all at once. And I know that that will feel like it's taking a lot longer, but sacrificing a little bit of time to make it look neater and not have to worry about those scribble lines is worth it. Liking how that's looking. All right. Now, for the eyelid, we're going to go through and we're going to make the top part a little darker and a little bit thicker. I thought it'd be very cool if doing this project, especially if it's something I end up using in my class in the future, my in-class class, not my online class, it might be fun to try and do eyes from all around the world, because obviously everybody has different shapes in their eyes. Usually we see kind of more of a wider European-ish eye. Since when doing artwork, you kind of usually want to have something a little bit wider like this to get what we want to do in the middle. But I think it'd be fun to play around with that in the future. Alright, so we got that nice dark line. Now to really make this feel like a rounded eyeball, especially using this part, the eyelid area, the sides on either edge, we're going to want to darken a little bit. Not quite as dark as it is up here, but we are going to want to add along this edge a little bit of a shadow. So going in lightly, lightly, lightly first. On one side and on the other. Let's be crazy for a second and go left-handed. So normally when I'm working, especially on something like this, and I had to shade on this side, I would be flipping my paper around and doing it this way. Because this is a lot more natural, especially right-handed, is to go in the direction of the curve, like this. It's a little bit harder, I think, for you guys looking at it to understand what's going on, but I want you to see that this is an option that you can do to turn your paper sideways. So even if I'm keeping mine like this, if you feel that it's awkward going this way like I do, you can turn your paper then. I'm just keeping it this way for you guys to see. I am not skilled with my left hand, but I can at least do shading with my left hand. And it's a little bit easier because, again, following your wrist motion makes it a little bit easier. Okay. Blendy, blendy, blendy. So I'm actually blending outwards toward where our nose would be, as well as blending up into the eye. When I was in college, we needed to do a project that kind of used charcoal and showed emotion. I might still have it somewhere, I'm not sure. But I did a extreme close-up of my eyes, one eye on each side, but I had put my hands over my face, kind of, not quite like peekaboo, more like you're watching a scary movie and you don't want to see what's happening. And I did this cool kind of wide-eyed look. And it was really fun. Eyes can be such a cool thing to try and draw and try to get all the different expressions. So you see I'm going back in now and I'm darkening, especially on this side. That line got a little bit lost when I blended. So I just want to kind of reaffirm that that line is there. And add just a little more shadow on the edge. And a little more shadow right here. Kind of right where you see this line going, right along that pathway. So I'm sneaking a little bit of this shading into the edges of the paper, just because when you think about it, our skin tone is not going to be paper white. So just trying to make it feel like my drawing is going all the way to the edges. Alright, let's sneak back up to the eyebrow for a second. We're going to go in and start adding in some of our eyebrow hair. Be careful with this. You do not want to scribble. You do not want to do a back and forth motion. You want to go in a single direction. It's not going to look any different from your view of me doing this, because a scribble motion, back and forth, versus a one direction, my hand looks like it's moving the same way. My hand is still moving back and forth. The difference is, instead of making a line when I go up and down, I'm only making a line on the upwards. Okay? So just keep that in mind while you're doing this. You want a single direction. You do not want to go back and forth. You don't want to create these mountain shapes. Okay? We're doing little bits of hair. Now, you're also not going to want to go in nice perfect lines like this. Our hair, especially our eyebrows, they have a little bit of a curve, and they're going to crisscross each other. So they're going to fall on top of each other. They're going to go back and forth. So don't worry about this being perfect. There's no perfect in this. But you do want to make sure you're going in the same direction. So the way that your eyebrow curves, it's almost like you're going to be starting kind of on the line and heading up towards the top. Not too long, but kind of like this. So I'm going to go all along the edge here, going one direction, and starting to fill it in. You can take your time with it, or when you start feeling comfortable, you can start going a little bit faster. I'm probably going to take my time a little bit along the edge, and don't worry about getting a perfect straight line. Again, our hair does not line up perfectly along our skin. Even if you do a little landscaping and you pluck things out, you're still going to have the occasional hair that starts just a little bit lower than the others. So don't be too afraid of that. Also, as you work, you're going to have points where your pencil is sharp and where it starts to get a little bit dull. And what that creates is a difference between kind of a lighter, thicker line versus these thinner lines. What you want to try to do with that is go over it. Right now I'm going over with a kind of unsharpened point, but then when I turn my pencil, I get a sharper point. So I'm going to use that to my advantage and kind of mix things up. So I'll have some sharper lines and also some flatter lines. And this is going to go all the way down toward the end. By the time you get to the end, you're almost pointing off toward the back of the paper because it's working in a curve and you're pointing away from the nose, essentially. Now, if you're working on a table that you don't want to get messy, grab some scrap paper to put underneath the back of your page, like this, so that you're not getting it all over the table. But since this is my art table, I can get it as messy as I like. All the way down, all the way down. Now, same with the top of this. You don't have to worry about if you've got one stray hair sticking up funny. It actually makes it feel a lot more realistic when you do. This part needs to be filled in a lot more. It is too light. Now, I don't want to go over the whole thing. I'm just hitting along the edge of here a little bit to help hide that original line we made and just help darken it a little bit. If you go over the whole thing, you're going to end up losing all these great lines that you've made to recreate the hair. So I did a little bit of a blending, and now I'm going back in and just making sure that my lines did not get too blurred. Not too bad, not too bad. It's going to be a little bit lighter toward the edge, but that's okay. Alright, let's start getting down into the rest of the eye. So, on the inside here, this little tear area, we're going to add some shading in the curve there and along the edge of the eyeball here. So I'm taking my time with it, shading that, and then blending. I need a little bit more of a point here. And I'm going to darken it a little bit more at the top, just to create the feeling of a shadow happening. The eyelid is over the top of this, so by adding a little bit of darkness right underneath that, it helps to make this feel like it's actually underneath the skin. Which sounds a little gross, but this is how our eyeballs work, everybody. There we go. Looking pretty good. Yep, I'm using just a regular mechanical pencil. You can use regular sharpened pencils as well, wood pencils. It's just my preference using mechanical. I like the not having to sharpen. If I were working on this much bigger, like a bigger piece of paper, then I probably would use a wooden pencil. If only because since the lead is thicker, it allows you to shade in areas a little bit faster if they're large. For something small like this, mechanical is great. I think I'm going to make this just a tiny bit darker, just looking at it. With the sunlight coming in the way it is, it's almost easier for me to be looking at what this looks like on my computer screen. Since the screen has such a nice top-down view, I'm not getting the reflection off of the light coming in. Alright, moving towards the bottom. You guys have to bear with me, because this part's going to start off looking a little bit weird, but it'll start making sense once we get closer to the end. So, around the middle of this little area here, leave a little space, and lightly start to follow the eyeball. And you're going to bring that all the way around. And what's going to happen is you're going to have this line continue just a little bit. And this one's going to come up and meet it. This is part of the lower eyelid. That part's going to be really lightly shaded, so you can even just go with just your paper towel or your finger that already has some graphite on it, and just kind of go along that. So you got a little light shading there. Then you're going to go in and we're going to shade the area underneath it. Kind of light at first. So I'm going to go all along this edge and add a little bit of this kind of medium shading. blend that part out. And we're going to go back in and a little bit on the sides here, not too much, but mostly right underneath. I'm going to start adding in a little more shading. This would be the area, if you've ever heard the term bags under the eyes, that's what this means, is this area that gets shadowed just underneath your eyes. So usually when you're tired, this area kind of sinks in a little bit and it causes a shadow to happen. It can sometimes make it look like your eye is bruised even. But usually you're going to have a little bit more of a shadow underneath the middle of the eye than you are at the edges. So we're going to blend that all the way to the edge of the paper. So we get a little bit of shading happening here, and then it's a little bit darker right underneath. And then same thing on this side. Blend that all the way out to the edge of your paper. Making it just a little bit darker underneath here. And blending and blending and blending. Remember, the goal is to try and not have too many pencil lines showing. Shading is looking good. All right, so we're going to actually need to go in and thicken this up just a little bit more. Especially over the top. Part of this reason we're shading it is for where the eyelashes are. They bunch together enough that they make it a little bit darker around the upper eyelid. All right, let's talk eyelashes. Now, I find that some of my gentlemen sometimes have a little bit trouble with the idea of adding eyelashes because we've sort of come to associate eyelashes as being the way that you identify a girl face versus a boy face. We're not doing whole faces. A lot of you guys already did similar things with this already, drawing faces as part of your packet. So you don't have to do this, just showing you. But a lot of times when people start off drawing faces for the first time, and they put in eyes, and let's do two just so you can see what the difference is. Other than things like length of hair, people tend to think that a character that has long hair must be a girl and people with short hair must be boys. But the other way that you'll really tell when drawing two faces is if it's a boy, you draw the mouth pretty much just a line. But if you're drawing a girl, you add eyelashes and lips. So it's been kind of a weird rule that if you're drawing two faces, in order to make it look like a girl, you need to add eyelashes and lips. It's clearly ridiculous. Boys have lips, boys have eyelashes. So the idea that if you were drawing a face, you would not include those because you wanted to make it look like a boy, that's not how faces work at all. You also want to be careful when adding in your eyelashes. Let's do a close-up. Eyelashes do not go like this. Even if you add the lower lashes, this is not some weirdly shaped sun. Okay? If your eyes are widely open, you may have something similar to this, but definitely not the feeling that everything is going out from the center of the eye. That just made it really creepy, didn't it? Ooh, spoopy eyes. Okay? On the lower, eyelashes do tend to go away from the center, but on the upper lid, depending on the expression, they might not be going upwards at all. They might actually be coming downwards and even going across in some way, which is the case for our eye here. This is a much more relaxed expression. So starting in this darker area, we will have eyelashes that come pretty close into this area, but they tend to be pretty small. So we're going to have just a few short little lines starting to show along this edge. As you start getting closer to this line, they're going to start getting a little longer. Now the way that I'm drawing these, kind of like when you did the eyebrow, if I make one line, this is a little bit thin for how we want the eyelashes to go. So what I'm doing is I'm going over that line probably 3-4 times just to make it a little bit wider, okay? So as I start heading closer and closer toward the eye, they're going to start to get a little bit longer. And start to cover over the eye. Now what's actually happening is these eyelashes are actually pointing towards us. They are coming toward the viewer, which is why they are as short as they are. It's a difficult angle to sometimes get when you have something that is pointing towards you. So I'm going to fill in a few more later, but I just want to get the direction and shape going. Now once you've passed the midway point of the eye, you want to make sure your eyelashes are still going outwards. So over here where they were all seeming to head toward the middle, once you get towards the top, they're not going toward the middle, they're starting to point outwards. And as you get further and further away from the middle of the eye, they're going to not only start pointing more towards the corner, they're also going to start to get longer because the angle is changing. So as you come down, pointing towards the corner of the eye until you get all the way to that corner, and then the eyelashes are going to start pointing outward. Now the line of the eyelashes, just like with any hair, you're going to have longer ones, you're going to have shorter ones. So don't be thinking you have to get a perfect line going here. You're going to have some gaps. You're going to have some that might even crisscross a little bit or be shorter. And that's okay. You're still a little dark right there. Okay. For the bottom, now where we had our eyelashes were kind of coming from this darker space created here. On the lower eyelid, you are not creating them along this inside line. Our lower eyelashes are coming out from this second line. We actually have this little bit of space here. It does occur up at the top. We just don't see it because the eyelashes are pointing straight out towards us, while these are going at a slightly different angle. So these ones at the bottom are going to be a little bit shorter. So even starting in this far side, keep them short, and they're going to be a little bit further apart. So I'm still doing a couple of lines just to keep them on the thicker side. And these are all just pointing away from the middle. So really the best way to figure out what your eyelashes should look like is to practice doing eyes from pictures. Look up pictures of real people, close-ups if possible, and draw eyes from them. Now these ones on the side here will be a little bit longer and then start to shrink again once they head towards the corner. That sounded like a puppy jumping off a couch above me. There's just a loud boom upstairs right above my head. All right, ladies and gents. So, this is the part that everyone's going to have pretty much the same, hopefully. You are all creating this eyebrow shape. You are all creating the same kind of shadows as much as you can. Eyelashes, everything. All of this is the part that we are all doing together. Now, here's where the differences start to come in. The center part of your eye is now going to be up to you to decide what to do with it. You could choose to only do something kind of fantastic on the inside of this eye and leave the white part of the eye like the white part of the eye, in which case we'll be doing a little bit of shading. So I will show you how to do that. But if you choose to go with something like this artist we found that's doing the planet idea, they chose to color in the white part of their eye to kind of mimic the night sky. So if you are like, cool, I really like the idea of doing a planet, then go for it. And if you want to color this part in black, you can. What I'm going to show you next with our little bit of time is just what to do for shading if you choose to go a different way. So these are those cool planet eyes again. And you can see how even on these, the way that the shape of the eye is a little bit different, the eyelashes are a little bit different, everything. So let me see real quick if I can find another cool idea for the eye. So here's another one. And this one's doing a little bit more of a realistic idea. Now, we're not coloring the outside of this, but just so you can kind of see, they chose to keep the white of the eye like a normal eye, and then the actual inside of the eye is looking like planet Earth. And they're even doing a little bit of a tear happening. So, you have some options with this. Let me see if I can find one more cool example to show you guys. Boom. Here's another interesting idea. So this person went with like kind of a city going on inside the eye. So there's like the city during the day, and then on the inside of the eye, city at night, and even turning the pupil into a moon, which is pretty sweet. So you have a lot of different options for this. If you like the planet option, I'm going to say go ahead and do something like that. This is a time that we are dealing with a lot of different feelings and a lot of different emotions. So you may have some feelings that you want to try and get out in this picture. So if you want to do some kind of a drawing that reflects how you've been feeling going into this whole pandemic and having to stay at home, maybe you want to do something like a person trapped in a jail cell, like you feel like you're just trapped where you're at. This is meant to be like a window almost, showing you what's going on inside this person's mind. So we're going to have a little bit of different fun with it. I haven't decided quite yet what I'm going to do in the center, but I do want to at least show you guys, if you choose to leave the white part of the eye as the actual like real eye, what you're going to do for that. Okay. We're going to add just a little bit of shading, actually. That's going to be about it. And you're just going to use your paper towel for this. I would actually recommend getting some scrap paper. Do a little scribble. If you don't have scrap paper, flip your paper over and do this on the back of your paper. Just so you can get some pencil lead on your paper towel. And we're going to go into the edges of the eye and add just a little bit of shading. Very lightly across the bottom. And then more so when you get into the corners. Now you do want to have it happen up into this area underneath where the eyelashes are. And if it gets a little dark, that's okay. It might mean having to go back and going over your eyelashes a little bit to make them pop out again. But you don't have to do it through the whole area. You're just trying to give the whole eyeball the feeling of it being round. So the way you make something feel round is by doing the shading, especially along the edges into the corners, and leave the center area pretty light. Okay. So this is going to finish up the follow along part of this assignment. He's looking at you, kid. Thanks, Lori Beth. Tomorrow, I'm going to still be working on this. I'm going to be working on what I'm doing in the center. So if you want to still follow along with me, you can follow along. I still encourage you, though, even if you have finished this part, to, kind of watch a little bit of the other video if you need help getting some ideas. If you are already like, oh my gosh, I have so many cool things that I want to do in the center, go for it. I will post up the second video as well on Classroom, but the first part, this part, is the required portion that you need to do following along with me. The rest is going to be up to you. Okay, so let's swing it back around here. Whoop. The sun has moved a little bit. Line it up again, camera, please, and thank you. Yes, yes, yes. Keep the board in there. Very good. Okay. So, quick reminders. Packet due Friday. Your eyeball drawing is also going to be due by Friday. If you want to wait till Friday to work on it, remember, I know you have other classes that you're working on through the week. I just want you to have this so that you have time to work on it throughout. If you are still having problems taking pictures and uploading them, please let me know. If possible, I'll try to put up some kind of a tutorial, but it seems like most people are able to get their stuff loaded up at this point, and are doing pretty well with that. So let's keep that up. And I will see you guys tomorrow with hopefully the rest of this drawing. And then I look forward to seeing your work and stuff throughout the week. So send me pictures as you're working if you're having trouble, and I can try to help you out with that. Otherwise, I will talk to you later. You guys have a great day. Bye.